The following contains opinions about Apple products that may or may not be consistent with your own.
The Apple Watch. I went from happy to hating it to loving it. So what changed? And is the Apple Watch Series 0 still useful in 2020? Welcome to Billboard. When the Apple Watch was released in 2015, I was excited. I was on board. And after much soul searching and saving up, I got myself a shiny new stainless steel sapphire crystal glass Apple Watch Series 0. And just like in World War I, where nobody called it World War I because they had no idea there would shortly be a World War II, the Apple Watch Series 0 was, at the time, simply known as the Apple Watch. So much promise, so much potential. And things were good for a while. Then I started getting a little bit tired of apps crashing, not opening, taking ages to load, and the watch generally behaving badly. I felt like a beta tester. I waited patiently with each of the software updates which promised caching apps for faster loading and many other general improvements. And yes, they helped, but only a little. It got to the point where I took to blogging my hatred of the Apple Watch.
Hate so much.
I aimed my vitriol directly at Tim Cook.
We have one more thing.
Saying things like, "My Apple Watch is the most frustrating, annoying, and almost useless device I've ever spent my money on. The Apple Watch does not do anything well. It almost feels like a dead weight on my wrist." Interestingly enough, reading back over my gripes, most of them still exist on the current Apple Watch, such as news apps only providing a couple of sentences from articles at most, the lack of third-party watch faces, notifications not easily brought back after disappearing. I even threatened to give up on smartwatches and go back to a nice analog vintage watch, but I didn't, because then the Apple Watch 3 came along and the critics started raving. So I took the plunge and got one, but this time I avoided the fancy one and got the basic scratches if you breathe on it version. And I must admit, it was a serious step up, and I fell in love with the Apple Watch and the Apple ecosystem. Nicely played, Tim Cook. So what about the Series 0, the first edition? Is it still useful in 2020? Let's look at some comparisons between my Series 0 and my Series 4. Strangely enough, I now wear my Series 0 almost every day as my alternative watch while the Series 4 gets charged, and there's something pleasant and nostalgic about it, which makes sense as I'm notorious for my nostalgia and always looking back fondly. Sure, it's a little slow, but it still provides me with notifications, tracks my activity, and tells the time, which is all I really need it to do. And the stainless steel looks fantastic. I remember thinking about all those folks that bought the Series 0 Gold Edition watches. Those people would literally have paid thousands of dollars for those watches, unless they were Beyonce and got one for free. Their watches would be running in exactly the same manner as my Series 0, because the insides were exactly the same. I guess if you could afford the Gold Edition, then you could also afford subsequent upgrades. Are you someone who has an original gold Apple Watch? Are you still wearing it? I am keen to hear about it, so please let me know in the comments. So in conclusion, the Series 0 Apple Watch is useful. But for me, I would not recommend it as your primary watch, unless that's all your budget allows, or you've been given one as a hand-me-down. Now, since the Apple Watch Series 5 was an incremental upgrade from the Series 4, what new features could possibly tempt me to get the Series 6?
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Jules and Vern.